I define it as, again, as being, a trailblazer, as being a rebel in the business, as being a person who pretty much started hip hop in the South. A businessman, number one, not more of an artist, but a businessman that had to transform into a political figure because the music was so
Mm.
political, that, and then even with the political part, I thought it was a perfect storm because I was the perfect person to engage in political conversation because of my rich history and history from my Jamaican dad and my Bahamian uncle. And, politics in the house on the weekends is a must when it comes to the boys. You need to understand what's going on in the world politically. So when they came after me, understood the politics of it all, strong black man, strong figure, with a voice, moving people, in an independent way. And so I look at it more like I'm a trailblazer.
Yeah, this is Common Sense PhD with Papa Keith and company. Yeah, this is Common Sense PhD with Papa Keith and company. Make it make sense. I love it when they bring the soul to the beat. They telling me to stay inside, it's not safe in the streets. Got black babies dying, I see blood on the leaves. If I see a devil, I might just take off the sheets. Do what I do to live my life. I care less about these dudes who just sit online and type, who love to criticize and say, what would you do for the price? In the same breath saying what you do with your life, what you do to survive. Cause most of y'all don't make it, while the rest is sitting at home and scared to take it. The life we lead is not one you can fake it till you make it. And I can't lie, that's why I laugh when they be hating. They so far removed, they still debate on who the best. But the real know that the best don't have to flex. You might not ever hear a bar or see the check. See the fake will never see you unless you step. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Yeah. This is Common Sense PhD. Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
We are here. We are here. We are here. We are here. And I just got to say, I am so excited. I feel so fortunate to have this opportunity and have you be my second guest for my second show of Common Sense PhD, my new podcast. Let me please introduce this amazing individual to you right now. Luke Campbell is a Miami hip-hop pioneer, entrepreneur, and community activist, best known as the leader of the Two Live Crew, a central figure in the rise of Miami-based music. Luke helped push hip-hop into a new territory with bold, unapologetic content that sparked national debates over free speech and censorship. Beyond music, he has become a powerful voice in South Florida, dedicating years to youth development through football programs and community initiatives. Today, Luke continues to influence culture, policy, stepping into the political arena with a focus on empowering underserved communities and shaping the future of South Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, the legend is in the building. Uncle Luke, a.k.a. Luther Campbell. Thank you so much, my brother.
Hey man, thank you for having me, man. I'm happy. Since you got glasses, I'm gonna put glasses on too.
Yeah.
We're just gonna do we're gonna do the eyeglasses show. Hold on, I gotta clean mine here.
All right, no problem, man. Listen, Luke, the name of this podcast is called Common Sense PhD. I always felt like, common sense ain't so common, but I felt like I had a PhD in common sense because the way how I look at the world is just so simple sometimes, And sometimes we make things more complicated than it really needs to be. So this is my opportunity to chop it up with, people and just have some real conversations about mostly their lives and their contributions to life and how it could help teach and shape others that are going to watch this podcast. So we're going to jump right in, and I got like 15 questions for you. We're going to run through. I want to start first with Miami music history and the cultural impact, all right? So we know that bass music changed the sound of hip-hop forever. What do you think, Luke, people still misunderstand about Miami's role in shaping the culture?
Well, again, I know you're joking. I want to just thank you for having me on your program. It's a great thing to see I'm always excited about watching you grow from the days of Soul Syndicate to right now, where you're at, and hearing you on the radio all over the country, wherever I travel. So I'm really proud of your career. Uh, Number one, you know, where Miami base, I think it's where it fits in hip hop, is a very, very important piece of hip hop. It's a very important part of it. I was just looking at an interview the other day with a young man, I forget what his name is, and he mentioned Jay from Rap a Lot, and he mentioned me, and he said these are the pioneers of Southern hip hop. Jay on one end, me on the other end. We don't get our just credit. We don't get our credit just due. We don't get the credit that we started Southern hip hop in Miami on 54th Street at the Pac Jam Team Disco. So people will not even talk about that. People just want to skip over that and just get to Atlanta and had a conversation about who's hot in Atlanta, who's this and who's that, and just give the credit to everybody but Miami. I remember, the days of Two Live Crew, and when I'm DJing at the Pac Jam Team Disco, and I'm bringing down these artists, whether it's Jekyll and Hyde, Furious Five, Mantronics, you name it. And we didn't bring down this group, Two Live Crew, and then we didn't say, "Hey, look, let's do a record called Throw the Deep," and then we do the record, and then I'm trying to deal it and give it to somebody, and the record pops off, and next thing you know, we're traveling all through the South. It pops off in Atlanta, pops off in Orlando and Jacksonville and all these places. And I recall going to Atlanta and listening to radio in Atlanta, and the only thing you heard was New York music on the radio, and the only place that was playing the type of music that we made was Sharon Showcase. So I know the history of traveling through these areas, traveling through Savannah, going in the South, and us being the only music that's being played and the only artist that's being played. I remember trying to sign a Master P. When he had the Ice Cream Man song, I tried to sign Too Short. All of us were considered outsiders, when he had his music, selling his records out of the trunk of the car, because he had the same situations. We don't get credit for what we've done by starting Southern hip hop. We don't get credit for, the fights that I had to go through, with expensive lyrics. We don't get credit for these things, fight, all the way to the Supreme Court for, the protection of hip hop artists and comedians, taking that fight all the way to the Supreme Court and winning. So we don't get credit for nothing. You'd assume that at some shape, form, or fashion, that they would be like, oh, these guys paved the way. These guys allow these ladies and gentlemen to say what they want to say on these records right now. So, I mean, I can go on and on about what we don't get credit for because we're Miami I just, at some point, the story will be told, where we're at in the history of hip hop.
Yeah, I believe so too. And sometimes we have to tell it ourselves. Um, you know, but I'm aware of everything you just said, and it's just good to hear you be able to talk about it and let people know what's really good for those who don't. Now, I have a question. When you were building Two Live Crew, did you know that you were creating a movement at that time, or were you just trying to survive and win in the moment?
Well, after bringing down all these artists, whether it was Run DMC, you name it, all these different artists, just bringing them down and hearing their horror stories about the record label, not doing what they need to do and not, taking care of them financially, and how they're making no money, and basically the money that they're making is on the road. Uh, the real story behind that story was my first song that I created was the song called Ghetto Jump. It was Everybody Ghetto Jump. And that was based on me DJing, because I used to make all these dances as a DJ. I wanted to be different than other DJs other than playing the music. I created dances within the music. So I would play was Wild Wild West theme song, the beginning of it, dun, 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 and then say, everybody get a jump, jump. So I would have the whole skating ring jumping, and they were doing this and doing that and making signs, and some guys came and they said, hey, man, can we do a song? Can we do that as a song? And I was like, yeah. And so, they did the song. And I said, yeah, with only with one condition, that you come do, that's the DJ and me, that you come do one free show for me. Yeah, you can do the song, but do a free show for us. And so obviously they ended up reneging on doing the free show. The song blew up because we blew it up in the club because, mind you, not the club, but the teen disco, mind you, Friday night, I'm at Attapata doing a dance in the cafeteria. Saturday, we're at what it is, Carol City Gym. Sunday, we're at the Pack Jam. Before Sunday, we're in the park. So we're like really pushing. We're really seeing about 10,000 people entire weekend when you do the total numbers. So breaking a record was my thing anyway. So we broke the record. Guys didn't want to perform. So, here I bring down 2 Live Crew. I'm like, yo, these dudes just made me mad. They ain't do a song. So let's do another song that I got another dance that I created in the teen disco was called, Throw the D. And the girls was doing Throw the P. And so, they looked at it. Chris looked at it and was like, oh, okay. And so he wrote to the song and we ended up going in and doing it. And I did not want to be a record executive, so I automatically took it to music specialist. Pretty Tony, my other comrade who had the party down DJs, said, Tony, put this record out. I'm excited about it. Tony's like, no, we don't do that type of music. And before you know it, I was like, okay, well, shit, I'm gonna have to put it out myself.
And that was the birth.
And that was the birth because
Wow.
nobody wanted the song Throw the D. It was like, okay, all right, I got to put the song out by myself. I have no idea how to put a record out. And before you know it, I ended up putting the record out. I know because one, Jerry Javas, my good Jamaican friend who had a record pool called Jerry Jobs Record Pool. I know that you got to get the record in the record pool. So Jerry, tell me about other record pools around the country. So I then distributed to all of them. And then 2, I know there was nowhere in the world I was going to get this cussing record on the radio at 99 Jams where I interned at, because I interned as a kid. I'm not getting this on over there. So, again, I had to rely on rely on the crowd that I created to break the record.
Wow.
It's crazy because I learned how to break records from this guy named Jerry Javas. He used to DJ at Big Daddy's Lounge on 79th, and he was like, yo, you ain't no DJ unless you break a record. Other than that, you just spinning music. And so I always pride myself in going to the record pool on Saturday and then looking through the crates and playing records that were not on the radio. And that made me feel like I was a real DJ.
Wow. That's an incredible story, Luca, that I did not even know. Yo, man, is this how we starting? I'm scared, man, because, man, you are dropping some serious gems right now, and I appreciate this. It's so funny because I've been talking about Throw That D on the radio lately because the Baby has a song called Pop That. And when the song plays and it finishes, I said, man, I ain't nothing but Throw That D 2026.
That's all. Baby been trying to do bass music forever. I think his last few songs is all about bass. Everybody's trying to do bass. It's funny.
For sure.
It's funny. And then it's funny when you looked at the TikTok videos and all that and people dancing. Somebody asked me that the other day. I was like, no, it's in their bloodline. I said, bloodline thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, some things will never get out of your bloodline, it's almost like, not to be so harsh. We talk about crack babies, and it's crack, parents, and it's just hard to break in their system, and the music is in their system. That's why it still amazes me today, when I'm going to a party, somebody's party, and then they throw I Wanna Rock on, or It's Your Birthday, and the little kids losing their mind. I'm like, oh God, I gotta still keep doing shows for them when they get 18. Yeah.
But it's real, right? It's real. Let's talk about, legacy in the music industry, since we're still on the music topic. You've been called controversial, groundbreaking, and everything in between. How do you define your legacy?
Man, I define it as, again, as being, a trailblazer, as being a rebel in the business, as being a person who pretty much started hip hop in the South. A businessman, number one, not more of an artist, but a businessman that had to transform into a political figure because the music was so
Mm,
political, that, and then even with the political part, I thought it was a perfect storm because I was the perfect person to engage in political conversation because of my rich history from my Jamaican dad and my Bahamian uncle. Politics in the house on the weekends is a must when it comes to the boys. You need to understand what's going on in the world politically. So when they came after me, I understood the politics of it all. Strong black man, strong figure, with a voice, moving people, in an independent way. And so I look at it more like I'm a trailblazer,
yeah,
Rodney Dangerfield.
absolutely.
I'm never gonna get any credit or any respect for anything. So it is what it is.
Absolutely a trailblazer and then some. The legal battles you faced over free speech changed hip hop forever, as we know and discussed. When you look back, was it worth the fight to you?
Yeah, it's definitely was worth the fight. I mean, when you look at what Sexy Red and Lotto and Young Miami and Trina and Lil Wayne and all these and the Baby and all these artists are being able to say the things that they want to say on the record without fear of getting censored or even put in jail. What people don't understand is it was two cases. It was whether parody was protected by the First Amendment. That's me doing a parody of Old Pretty Woman. That's the case that went to the Supreme Court. But then um, there was another case where they deemed the record "Nasty as Wanna Be" obscene. I had to get that overturned in appeal. And then I went down the street because I was mad because the rebel mentality in me go right down the street from the courthouse and do a show and then get locked up. And was ready and prepared and went to jail and was ready and prepared to do some time for my constitutional right. And that constitutional right was, does it apply to African Americans? And so that's why I brought that fight on. So that record, if I did not overturn that in appeal, it would have been left on the books. So as we know, when you leave certain things on the books and you do not appeal those rulings, then they could use that as case law against you. Just like Puff Daddy. He's in jail because of a case that was never overturned 100 years ago, and they applied that case to him in order to incarcerate him. And so if I did not go and get that ruling overturned, now mind you, there was conversations like leave the record to be the first hip hop record to be banned in the history of the United States, which it was, but just leave it as being banned and you could sell it on the black market for more money than that you could ever sell it for. But I was like, no, this is going to affect everybody after me, because my whole thing was uh, after me, starting hip hop in the South, going to New Music Seminar in New York, and I'm saying that's a fad, that'll never happen. No, we will rule, the South will rule hip hop because we're bigger than any area in the United States of America. So I was always on that. And so I could not leave that record obscene because, again, if I did, then at any given time, any one of these young ladies, they couldn't say what they said on the record because at any time, any municipality could have banned their record like they did Mr. Charles Freeman in Broward County, go into the store, lock up store owners, but like now there's no such thing as stores, but then they would have been
Right.
able to they would have really been incarcerating artists because of their work. And so when I look at that, I say, those are two cases and people kind of think about the Supreme Court case and think they were all entwined, but they were not,
Mhm.
and so again, when I look at that case is very powerful for the music and the culture and people to be able to do and say what they want to say right now, and to make millions and millions of dollars. Then the other one was more of Saturday Night Live, where the comedians can do satire, and without fear of getting censored. the way that they're getting that they're trying to censor 'em.
There's no question to your legend, sir. None. Talking about that, if young artists today tried to move the way you did back then, do you think they would survive in today's industry?
I think it probably is a couple Uncle Lukes around here. You know, like I sit down and talk to people like ASAP Rocky, a very knowledgeable individual of the history of hip hop. I mean, 21 Savage, very knowledgeable guy of the history of hip hop. So you have a lot of these young guys that are very knowledgeable of the struggle and where hip hop came from where it is today, and so I do think that there would have been some of those guys able to take on a challenge. I don't know if they would have been able to clone me, because I mean, the stuff that I had to endure and the money that I spent, I was just not taking no for an answer. I was not going to do that.
And we're all glad that you didn't. What's one decision in your career that people criticize, but you would make it again without hesitation?
Well, I mean, people that ask me that all the time. I mean, what would you do different, or what would you change? I wouldn't change nothing. I mean, because I really look at our life as a book, the Lord's book, and we just go through chapters and we go through pages, and so going to jail when I was a kid. That made me the man who I am. Sitting there in the jail, I was wondering, why am I in here? What are you doing? What are you doing? And my mom making a decision saying, look, if you stay here, you're going to choose a path where either you're going to either go in the jailhouse or the graveyard. And her moving me to DC for a year, help mold me as an individual, understanding how to be an entrepreneur, and then coming back being an entrepreneur. Getting into the music business and the trials and tribulations of that. I learned. It was like going to college. My whole life. It was like going to college, learning things on a first-hand basis, losing millions of dollars, doing that, going through the struggles of a record company, doing that, learning how people are not loyal, going through those things. Those helped me be a better person and better man, and have a better understanding of life and surround myself with better people. And so, I learned all those things. So I wouldn't change nothing. Everything is, everything was for a reason. Everything when I look at my life, it's like, I have a movie a movie on deck, and we look at the script, and I'm like, half of the stuff is not in here. This is not even a quarter of it. There's no way possible you can do a movie. It's like virtually impossible you could do a movie on me in my life story, because it's just so much. It's just so much to it.
It'd have to be a series. And me listening to you talk about that and the education of your life, it really points to the name of this podcast. You used your common sense PhD to work your way through, the industry and the different nuances, which is just brilliant, man. Let's move to youth sports and community work. Something that you're highly respected for. You've poured a lot into youth football in South Florida. What made that mission personal for you?
What made it personal? Because I was a kid, in Liberty City, where there was no organized sports. And so we had to get bused to Miami Beach to play organized football. I played football and baseball on Miami Beach. But back then, you would have to be off the beach if you were black. You would have to be off the beach after 6 o'clock, you go to jail. Number one. So you had to be off the beach, so the South Beach, where everybody loved, was a very racist place. If you got caught on South Beach after 6, you go to jail, and the police were very, very racist. And so I always said, while being bused over there to play organized sports, while being bused over there, I'm just sitting in the bus, young kid, not knowing what I'm doing in my life, just, thinking I'm going to be an NFL football player, and I'm making this sacrifice to going over here, that if I ever get 2 cents of my lunch money, no other kid will be being bused over here to play a sport, or to play a sport, because they don't have that sport in our community. And so my mission was, the first thing I did when I did get 2 cents of my lunch money, is buy my mom another house. She didn't want to move because she did have a nice little house in Liberty City. But the second thing was starting a youth program, Liberty City Optimists, and we started that program over 35 years ago, so that kids do not have to get bused to go to Miami Beach to play sports. You know that they can stay right in the community at Charles Hadley Park, and so that's what gravitated me, you know, to youth sports. And then when I realized the impact, when because I know the impact that it had on me going to Miami Beach playing organized sports and having a great coach and Coach Medina and Coach Needham and all these guys and how they took care of us. I just wanted to have the same situation in my own community where kids can go right down the street at Hadley Park and play, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, or whatever it may be. That's one reason that I took my money, and founded the program with Coach Sam.
Amazing. What do you think sports teach young people that schools sometimes miss?
Well, it teaches them, I mean, with good coaching, it teaches them accountability and responsibility because at our program, Liberty City Optimists, we use sports to draw people in. I mean, yeah, we're a historic program. Chad Johnson, Duke Johnson, Levante Davis, Devontae Freeman, Willis McGay, the list goes on. The list goes on, of the amount of players that came through our program. But what most people don't know that those players that came through the program are scholars, because, we have a lady there that's still there to this day from day one, Coach Lamb, who runs the tutoring program, which we have a much more expanded tutoring program because we were able to build after school, we were able to build a gymnasium with classrooms and all those things like that. And so, when you look at the program, and then you look at kids like Keon Hardeman coming through there, it's like, wow, you got doctors, lawyers, all these type of individuals coming through the program. You're looking at it like, okay, we're doing the right thing and we're continuously doing the right thing at our program. And so we always use sports to attract these kids to the program, but our program is heavy education. It's heavy education, unlike any other program in South Florida. I mean, the sports is third-dairy education, teaching our kids accountability, responsibility. It's teaching them how to be ladies, how to be gentlemen, and they represent the program well, and a large part of them come back to the program, and we love to see what they're doing in life as men and women.
That's amazing, Luke. That's amazing. When you're working with kids in the community, what's the biggest challenge that they're facing today that people don't talk about enough?
I mean, most of these kids, not to talk about my platform, but most of these kids are suffering from mental health. A lot of these kids, people don't realize. I mean, you see them smile, you see them running around playing sports and all that, but a lot of these kids are going home to no food. A lot of these kids are going home to a mother 10 years older than them. A lot of them going home to a mother 10 years older than them and the grandmother 10 years older than her. A lot of single parent households. But then there's a lot of men that are in their daughters and sons' life. People don't talk about that. They just talk about, how many single parent mothers. The difficulties with these young people is just letting them know that they're loved. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when a trick daddy come out of prison and his dad Pop called me and said, my son's coming out of prison, can you look out for him? You don't know trick daddy's finna be trick daddy. His name is Maurice. No, you come stay with me. You got a book of lyrics. You're a good rapper. Okay, well, we're going to try to expand on that. We don't know where it's going to go at, but we're going to try to expand on this. A pit bull, when I discovered him, hardcore, dreads, street, blacker than he's Cuban. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Doing everything you could name that he shouldn't be doing, you know what I'm saying? But looking at his tape of him battling. Oh, you got to give. Son, you got to give. Put your arms around him. I love you. You got to give. Same situation I was in. And that's why I go all the way. Everything is brought on by my mom making the decision saying, you need to go, you're in a fork in the road. You're either going to go this way, that way. But the love takes people a long way. And by putting your arms around one of these young men and saying, no, son, you got a gift. Trust me. You have a gift. I love you. You could do a lot of great things, and that defeats the mental help portion of it, because a lot of these kids are going in directions that, you know, you see, like, why did he do that? Why did he do it? He's got so much to live for. You took a life, and your life is over now. You know, it's because they're suffering. They look at the internet, they look at social media, they want these things, but they don't have any idea of how to get these things. And that's where the mental health part of it comes into. And that's where the community has to step in and say, no, you got to give. You were great. I mean, Devontae Freeman became the highest paid NFL football player at his position, reset the market. My ex-wife was his agent, reset the market. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the tallest. He wasn't the biggest. Lived in the Poke and Bean projects, had to walk up on the tape every day, and I had to drop him off. But by putting arms around him, son, you're God. If you follow God and you have a gift, and just don't let anybody stop you from achieving the goals that you want to achieve, and it always happens. And so our kids, and that's why I like being in kids' life. I mean, that's what the hardest thing in the world was for me to stop coaching football and go on this other run to helping more people. And I always tell people, reach one, teach one. These kids, they're they're our future. And I think if Jerry Rushing didn't take me up on his wing, I wouldn't learn the music business. You know how hard it is. I mean, you were in the music business, how hard it is. A kid want to go and learn the music business, want to intern, and he want to come in there to see how you be a DJ and how all these things. I was that same kid, trying to learn something. And that guy let me in the building and say, just put these carts up and you play the records while we go in the back and gamble and be with the girls and all that. Then then I slept my own commercial in for my dance. But again, it's about, it's about lifting, these kids up, because they are precious, and they can achieve better things in life.
Luke, thank you so much for saying that. And I just have to add on that you also provided that opportunity for me, Soul Syndicate, Uncle Al, and DJ Khaled when you did your Luke show on 99 Jams at that time. That's, so when people talk about my radio legacy, my radio legacy is a part of Uncle Luke's legacy, because if it wasn't for Uncle Luke affording me that opportunity, that was the first time I was on the radio, was the Luke show. So again, DJ Khaled, first time being on the radio in Miami was the Uncle Luke show. Uncle Al, first time, and you did that for us. So you kept that opportunity that you had from Jerry Rushing and from others, and you passed it down to us. And look where we've all, gone from there. So thank you, Luke. I just wanted to take the time to just throw that in there as well,
No doubt, no doubt.
Vision for South Florida's future. Miami is growing fast, but not everyone is benefiting. What needs to change to make sure the community isn't left behind?
I mean, a lot needs to change, and that's why I'm in this race. I think we're at a pivotal point of being erased. I mean, we're constantly as African Americans and as Caribbean Americans, as Black people, we're constantly going north. When you look at it from my lens, I'm 65 years old. I'm an old guy. I'm the senior that they talk about. When you look at it from where I came from, Overtown, my mom and dad lived Overtown. When my dad moved here, from Jamaica, he came to Overtown because that's where all the Blacks, when he met my mom, he met my mom in Cuba, because she was visiting her great-great-grandmother, because she's Bahamian and, Afro Latinos is over there. And then, obviously she lived in Overtown, and when he moved here, he eventually ended up over there. And then we eventually moved to Liberty City, one of the first families to integrate white Liberty City, because the only Blacks that was living in Liberty City was the people living in Liberty Square housing projects, which they call the pork and bean, which is a very derogatory term if you really know the history of it, because that's what they told my dad when he knocked on the door and said, "This is my house." They said, "No, Black people don't live here. You live in the pork and beans." It's like, what is the pork and beans? Over there where Blacks only could afford pork and beans, and And he was like, "Yeah, well, all that is fine and dandy, but I own this house. You got to get out." So, and he couldn't really understand him because his his Jamaican accent was was real harsh at that time. So it was hard, but he ended up getting out. It is the thing is where we're at as a community, and now you see Liberty City being gentrified. You're seeing Strunk being gentrified. You're seeing River Beach being gentrified and all these other areas, and we're consistently being moved north. You know, it's like the system is not designed for us because the wages haven't even caught up. The average income for African American is in this town is $27,000 less. The average amount to live here is over $60,000. So we're at 27 to $25,000 living in a place where we really basically can't afford. You got the rent going up out the roof. You got insurance going out the roof. So it's very difficult to live here. So how do you fix that? Is a combination of jobs, job creation, investment back in the community. You're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. We Jamaicans, we gotta have 12 different jobs. So we're gonna have job over here, job over here. We're gonna get money some kind of way. And so that is embedded in us with this being a Caribbean community. We have to find our way. And with good leadership, you have to find your way with people knowledgeable. And that's why I love the fact that you ran for office, because you understand the political process and how important it is for us to be involved, because you'll lose your community. You'll lose everything. I mean, I'm living in Miramar for over 15 years. I love what Messi is doing in the board and things that are happening here. He's holding the fort. It's not being gentrified as it is in Miami Gardens. When you look at Miami Gardens, 10 years ago, it was 27% Hispanic. Right now, it's probably 65% Hispanic. So the board and the system that you see right now, and the mayor and everybody, will eventually end up being erased if they don't slow the process down. So what we have to do as a people is create better opportunity, work more with one another, support one another, because the dollar is not translating in our community to be able to support each other. If we support each other, if I get a circle of people, and I have a circle of people right now, if I need a DJ, I'm calling him. If I need a plumber, I'm calling him. If I need this, and then we work out of the circle, then, okay, you're working out of the circle, but because, we have to translate the dollar within ourselves in order for us to be able to be able to live here, to be able to do the right thing and do the right thing by our kids. It's tough. I mean, it's really tough. And that's what So people, when I, you running in Miramar, me running in District 20, in this community, I look at it as the last frontier. I mean, it's the blackest district in the nation, in the state of Florida. It's 75% black, 75% Democrat, 20-some percent Hispanic. This is the most important time for this district. You know, uh, you can recreate Black Wall Street, because people are moving north. You can recreate Black Wall Street. You can make this the crown jewel. The average income in this district over $100,000. You can do that, with good leadership. You can do those things. Like the average income in Miramar is the highest Black average income in the state of Florida. Most people don't know that. We have a very influent community, mixture of all types of people. You can do that in that district, because of the things. But again, it takes good leadership. It takes good elected officials. It takes elected officials not to sell the farm, because, a lot of times, we sell our community to these developers and sell them to these great ideals and people who don't look like us, and they don't have our best interests.
Yep, that's a fact. And we're going to get it done, Luke. Don't worry. What does a better South Florida look like, though, to you in the next 10 years?
A better South Florida? I mean, that's a great question. A better South Florida, our schools better. I mean, our schools, in a better situation. Our our public schools in a better situation. Even though we're going through a fight right now, we're going through a fight because you have public schools and you have charter schools, and charter schools is a Republican thing, and we have not gotten into the charter thing like everybody else because we're so dependent upon public schools. Most of the charter schools are Catholic schools. They're some sort of Catholic school that is reaping the benefits of the state funds. Our public schools were losing students and we're closing public schools. And now, here, even right here in Broward County, they just got rid of 300 employees. And next year they're going to get rid of another 300. And then they're going to close schools up. And then they're going to sell the schools to a developer, so-called do affordable housing, but he's going to make tons of money. But it's crazy that you can close a public school down, open up a charter school at the same site, and all of a sudden, you got tons of kids in at that school, which is so bananas. At the end of the day, it starts in education because we are who we are right now. We can't go back in time. Those kids that are 10 years old, you ask about 10 years. A kid that's 15 years old, he'll be 25 years old in 10 years. He will be the adult. He will be the person. Is there a job for him? Is there opportunity here in South Florida for him? Does he have to move to Atlanta, Detroit, or Chicago for a better opportunity? We have to do that right now. It's a now thing. That's why it's so important. Today is so important, the way the world is moving and how fast the world is moving away from traditional life. That the decisions that we make today are very important to our kids in the future. 10 years from now, I want South Florida to be a place where our kids that are 25 and 21, because if they're 25, my son is 16 years old. He'll be 26 years old coming back. He finished college. He's 4 years at a career, whether him running the company that his dad left here or him doing his own thing, running owning a major league baseball team or something like that. I mean, we have to put our kids in that situation. We have to put ourselves in that situation. We have to build generational wealth for our kids because it's not about us. Yeah, we party, have fun. We go to the beach, we go do all these different things, but it has to be more. It has to be about more than just that. So the leaders have to think from that mindset and saying, are we thinking from the mindset that we won't be here in 10 years, that we'll move somewhere else? Or are we thinking from the mindset of what legacy we're leaving here in South Florida for the next generation? And that's what I'm all about. I'm not, they always, when I was a kid, they say, the last American bring the flag. I'm from South Florida. I'm gonna hold it down. I'm gonna hold the fort to the end, because, I don't want my son to when he go to college and come back, I don't want him to have to leave to go somewhere for better opportunity. I don't want to have to leave here, the place that he was born and raised, because we didn't do our job as adults.
Absolutely, man. That's a great vision for South Florida, and just the fact that you understand what it takes and the needs in order to ensure a better South Florida in 10 years, man. It just goes to show your leadership and why you're making this run. So that's going to be my next segment with you, is your congressional run and, of course, leadership. You've stepped into politics with your run for Congress. What made you say it's time for me to lead this way?
Man, that it's funny that you ask. I'm always into something historic. I always get myself into these things, but I'm a guy that's guided by God. I was getting ready to run before in the last cycle for the same seat, and then I said, no, it's not time. The man said, it's not time, don't do it. I had checkbook, I had everything ready to go, ready to start a campaign, ready to make a big announcement. I ran in a special election for mayor in Miami over 10 years ago. And I came in like third or fourth place. I knew I wasn't going to win that because it was a special election. But what I wanted to do was get young people involved in the political process. I want to create a base of voters, which you never lose in an election, because you look at the numbers and you say, I have so many people that voted for me. Those people really believed in you. They believed in your message. And so it was really about getting people involved in the political process and creating this coalition of voters. Like right now, anybody want to be elected, whether it's governor, mayor, or whatever it is, they come to me and ask for my endorsement because they want that block of voters that follow me and follow the messaging, and so that's really important. Running at this time, again, the man is like, okay, it's time, go right now, and I'm like, okay, all right, how we gonna do this? I'm always talking to God. How we gonna do this? He sent me to Edison. Edison had not won a football game in God knows how long. Papa Keith. It was like, I'm leaving Norland around the corner from my house, not too far from my house. Why are you sending me over here? I'm like, this is a not good situation. So we go over there and rebuild that, renovate everything, put fields, all these things, locker rooms. So we did a job over there. All right, now I want to retire. I've been doing this for 20 years. Okay, you got to do something else. This is another way to help. This is the time to run. So then sit down, think about it, talk to my son. Like, okay, we got to do some things here. When you run for Congress, obviously you got to do a bunch of financial things and make a lot of strong decisions because it's not an easy job. Originally, Congress is not commissioner or mayor. You ain't got to show up. No, you got to show up. You're spending X amount of days in Washington on $160,000 salary. That was the biggest thing, Papa Keith. I'm like, I go 2 weekends and I make this money in 2 weekends. I'm getting ready to do what? I'm getting ready to take an L, and then anything that you make over that, you got to go through the ethics. You got to go through the ethics department to say, well, I'm going to go do a show in Detroit and they're paying me 50 grand. And is this okay? Well, they got to then investigate who is. So it's like, when you're doing this, you really gotta think about it. You really gotta say that, hey, look, you're getting ready to make a serious sacrifice for a community of people. And I think right now is very, very, yeah, I mean, it's never been about me. Even when I was spending all that money fighting free speech, it's never been about me. It's not about the money, it's about the sacrifice. We have to make sacrifices for the betterment of our people. We can sit on the sideline and talk about it, but then we can be about it. So when I look at this run, I look at it as, like I say, it's a very important time. You got some very serious issues going on when it comes to African Americans. You got, especially in this district, you got a area in Belgrade, Pahokee, South Bay that has been decimated because they've lost jobs. The prison was there. They closed it down, lost tons of jobs. The sugarcane company automated, lost tons of jobs. We're going into this AI world where you're going to consistently lose jobs. So you have a community that's hurting for, okay, what is the next direction? You got kids doing the wrong thing. You have agriculture still, but the community needs a new vision, a new direction. You got an affordable housing issue. You got more homeless than you could ever imagine. So they need help. You have River Beach, your water plant. Everybody talks about the water issue in Michigan, but right down the street, those people are boiling their water in River Beach. They have a water plant issue, and it's been like that for a very long time. They have a gentrification issue. They have a homeless issue, which is some of the primest property in the state of Florida, that they're trying to push these folks out. And so they need the federal government, they need federal assistance to assist them in being able to stay in their house. Then you go down to Lauderhill and Lauderhill Lakes and Tamarack, and you see another situation. You got schools closing. You have kids not knowing which direction they can go in. You see a vibrant community. You ride down Sistrunk and you ride 5 minutes away and you got multi-million-dollar condominiums and businesses and all that, and we can do these things right here. I mean, you see the bright parts of it. The Trick Daddy opens up Sundays and full up. Chris Smith is full up. You see the potential, but then there needs to be the investment,
Yes.
into the area. And then again, it's still another affordable housing issue. And so you see the potential of the district and the things that you could bring in there, because I'm a visionary dude. It's about, okay, what resources I could bring in here to make us get to where we're at. You got a district, Papa Keith, that has 2 ports and 2 airports. In Miami, you only have 1 port and 1 airport. And this district, so if you expand the port, and we know them boys on the port make a lot of money. If you just expand both of those ports, the people who will get those jobs will be able to afford to live in those neighborhoods and stay. Because again, you have those situations. You got in Tamarack, you got another water issue. One storm, and they're gonna have a water issue. You got seniors being pushed out of their house because they got to make a decision whether they pay for their prescription drugs or buy their food, and then they're getting foreclosed on because the high cost of insurance. These are things that are not on the news on a regular basis, but when you go into the district, these are things that a good congressman can help. Not career dude who want to sit up there and talk about SNAP benefits and talk about Medicare, Medicaid. SNAP benefits is not going nowhere because there's more white people on SNAP than it is black people. So, those are, common sense things, but, it's about bringing the resources back, and that's what I'm all about.
Well, so what is one issue in Florida that you feel politicians keep talking about, but they just still aren't fixing?
Insurance. Think about it. Let's just put our Jamaican hat on.
You're gonna make my Trini parents kill me.
Yeah, Trini.
I know I act very Jamaican, but
let's put our Caribbean hat on.
All right.
All right. So, how many hurricanes hit our islands that we every year?
Right.
Why isn't their insurance pricing them out of their homes? And our insurance is pricing us out of our homes in the state of Florida.
Right.
Why hasn't the governor, the legislators, and the legislation fixed the insurance issue? If you can fix if it's not a problem in a third world country and they can survive and they can have insurance and they can rebuild in those countries, why can't we do it here? Why are we getting price gouged? Why are we getting taken advantage of in these United States of America, supposed to be the greatest country in the world? And so overall, when you ask the state of Florida, those are the issues. Where are we benefiting from this beautiful sunshine, this beautiful state? Everybody wants to be here. Where's the Fortune 500 companies? There are none. They got more Fortune 500 companies in Buckhead in Atlanta than we could ever imagine here. We're not taking advantage of the resources that we have. We got beaches, we got everything. So, if I was running for state, but I'm running for Congress, and part of my initiative is, again, it's about creating jobs. You create jobs through, building affordable housing for the people, by the people. You create jobs by expanding the port. You create jobs by teaching kids put tech schools back into these public schools, hopefully getting more students back into the schools. You put trades, because every kid is not going to college. But then the most important part of it is looking at where we're at. Yeah, we're in the most beautiful place in the world. Everybody wants to be here. So why we don't have a tax credit for the entertainment industry? We had one before, but it was all done wrong. You create a tax credit. Say I have all this land out here in Belgrade and Pahokee. Say when you look at what they're doing in New Jersey, with all their toxic waste land, and movie studios moving to New Jersey because New Jersey went to a tax credit. What 50 Cent opened up in Lafayette studio because of tax credit. I take and give you a federal tax credit, and Belgrade create studios. Now you've just built infrastructure. Now you just built more businesses. Now everybody in Belgrade, Pahokee, and South Bay are now making 6 figures, because when you're in the movie industry, you're automatically a part of the union, and the union charges a certain amount of money. But and the way you create that, you take a page out of Georgia's book. you get the credit based on, you get a federal credit based on the people that you employ from the community. Not the people you bring in, because what happened before, people, they flew people in and they did the job, they took the money and went out and they got a credit. The studios got a credit. No, in Georgia, your credit is based on how many people you employ that live in Georgia. And so that is what you do. You take Belgates, Pahokee, South Bay, with all that land out there, you create movie studios. And now, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? So things like that are doable, because when you're a congressman, you don't have to go. It's not like city where you got to sit up there. Oh, Papa Key got an ideal, and then now we got to get all these commissioners to vote for it, and then this one commission wants you to vote for this thing, and they want you to vote for another thing. The mayor, you got to get all these people. Now you're in serious problem. No, when you're a congressman or woman, you get to create subsidies to be able to bring that money back. Senior that's facing foreclosure because the high cost of insurance, I can create subsidies to help lower your insurance. I can create a mental health program. A family say, look, we want to start a mental health program. Okay, all right, we're going to give you federal funded to go and help these kids. We got federal fund. And those are the things that you can do, but you got to have a vision. People running for office, they say all the sexy things in the church and everything like that there. But more people need to ask, what is the vision? What is the future? Ask the question, just like you say, where are we going to be 10 years from now? What are you doing? What are we going? How are we going to create these jobs? So it's really, it's not difficult.
It sounds like you really have thought this through, Luke, and I love that for you. You have a lot of strengths that we've mentioned in this interview. So how do you plan to bridge the gap between culture, community, and policy if elected?
I mean, again, the politicians have been, let's face it, politicians have been lying to people on a consistent basis. You see it every day when you look at the news. Somebody's lying to somebody, somebody's cheating somebody's taking advantage of somebody, and it's not being trickled down to the people. Most politicians are just padding their own pockets, and that seems like the way to doing business. My job is to bring the resources back to the community. At the end of the day, the community. My job is to build that trust in me. I can't go and say, oh, I'm Uncle Luke, and I did this, and I did this, discovered this dude. No, they still got to believe in me, and I got to go do the work. I got to prove myself every day. I got to go and be visible, and I got to be very transparent on a daily basis every day if I'm elected. And that is what my job is, because, it's not about me, it's about the people. And when you sit in those seats, and I think a lot of politicians lose track of that, they think it's about them. It's the people's seat. You work for the people. You're an elected official. You're a community servant. You're a public servant. And when you have that mindset going in, and it's not about power and the people are beneath you, you will always do the right thing by the people, for the people. Are you going to is everybody going to be happy? No. Are you going to get things done overnight? No. It's a process to everything. And people have to understand that those processes, there's things that you can get done right now, but people have to understand there is a process, and you put things in place, and you have a person that fights for those things, and know that person, but you got to look at the person's track record. If you're dealing with a person that's, that has never fought, a person that has never did community service and these things like that, that's what you're going to get, and so, when I look at this race, as, me lending my services to this community, me going out and telling them these are the things that I think together we can do. I know together we can do. If they elect me, that's fine. If they don't, then I'll go back on vacation. My son will be going to college, and I'll probably end up dual citizenship in Jamaica and in the Bahamas, living the rest of my days there. But I will not be the person that did not say I did not try to help,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I won't sleep well knowing that. So I'm putting my best foot forward. You know I'm gonna be knocking on door to door. I'm gonna be going doing community events. You know, I'm going to do town hall meetings because I want people to know me. I want them to know me directly. You know, not just a figure. I want people to vote for me because I'm a celebrity. I don't want that. I want people to vote for me because they know that I'm passionate about really making change in their lives and in their kids' lives.
You know what's so interesting, Luke? And I could probably only have this conversation with you. You know, obviously I'm not as popular and as big as a name of you, but even being as a local celebrity here in South Florida, you know, sometimes I have to explain to people like in our position it's different. Like you have some politicians that they do it to be popular. We're like the opposite. Like we actually become more unpopular in a sense, becoming a public servant or, you know, or a politician. We become a little bit more unpopular and we're actually giving up some of our popularity in order to do that. And I don't think people really wrap their heads around that, Luke. You know, and this is a conversation I can have with you because, you know, a lot of times you'll see a lot of politicians and they'll grandstand and they're just so happy for like the attention. And there's and people like you and I are like, yo, we're used to that. We're not doing it for that. Like we have a different path. We see things different. We're trying to actually move in a different direction and do for the people, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt. I mean, you know, I say it all the time. You know, you see, you know, I'm just like you. I see politicians. It's like the Suge Knight thing. You know, hey, you ain't got to be all in the video and all that
Right.
dancing on stage and all that there. You know what I'm saying? Come on over here to death row. You know, I I laugh at it because you know, yeah, you know, we want our politicians to be human and humanize and be able to relate to the people. But at the same time, I always say to a politician, and this is how I judge a politician, who for the community that you made a millionaire? How many
Mm,
millionaires did you make? You know what I'm saying? If you can't say that you made somebody from the community, whether you grew up with them or they came from the community, if you can't say you made somebody in the community a millionaire, you ain't did nothing. It's almost like when Frankie Hollywood told me, hey, look here, man, until you break a record. And I remember telling DJ Khaled this at the studio, hey, look, man, you can do all that talking you want, but you got to break records. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't that, you know, if you haven't did that. So my thing is, that's why my whole platform is for the people, by the people. You know, if we're building affordable housing, then I'm looking for somebody from that community that has a construction company, that is a developer. And if he's not there, then he's somewhere else. I'm going on this mad search around the country because I know he left because the opportunities are not here. So I need to bring him back home. I need to bring him, if he's from Lauderhill, I need to bring him, we build in Lauderhill, we need to bring him back home. You know what I'm saying? And give him the opportunity of being able to rebuild his community and be able
mm,
to hire the people in his community. And now we can say we're building generational wealth, and now we're doing something sexy. And now I can get on the video and all on Facebook and be dancing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we got 20 millionaires that we just made here with all
right.
this federal and state funded. You know, until you do that, we're not doing we're doing the community a disservice. And so you know, like you say, we sit here, you do People Matter. We go to People Matter. You have tons of people registered to vote. And I asked the guy from the election office, how many guys y'all registered to vote? We registered more, Papa Key registered more people to vote in that one event than the whole Democratic Party registered their whole entire year. Really? Okay. And it's People Matter. So I mean, you do the work. We care about the community because we're sitting here. Yeah, we're public figures. You're a celebrity. Whether you believe it or not, you move people. You move the needle. People listen. You know what I'm saying? And you're using your platform to message to individuals, which is a great thing. But at the end of the day, yes, the politicians is not trickling to them because our communities are consistently being gentrified. You know, They've been gentrified. People have been pushed out because that's a part of the master plan to get rid of us, to move all of us to Georgia or whatever, some sort of bushes. But then it takes a person like me to, to say, okay, I'm willing to stand on that wall. I'm standing on the table. You are not gentrifying Riviera Beach. You will not be gentrifying Lauderhill Lakes, Tamarack. You will not be gentrifying that, especially when it's my people who live over there.
Yeah.
It's a large Jamaican community. Lauderhill Lakes, that's Jamaican folks. You ain't getting ready to displace my people. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, like I say, this is a serious election because you got temporary status. A lot of people in the Caribbean community are here on temporary status on TPS. Yeah, they got a bill passed in Congress, which is going to move to the Senate, which is another hurdle. You got to get passed in the Senate, then still got to go to Donald Trump. He got to sign it in law. The likelihood of him signing that in law is slim to none because he has he's trying to take status away. He's in a lawsuit right now running his taking the status away up to the Supreme Court where he feels comfortable in winning. So we have a large group of people, Haitian peoples that he's targeted in this district that he wants to send back to Haiti. And they ain't sending people back to Haiti because they're taking them and putting them in these concentration camps and dropping them off into Mexico. So I'm looking at and I go back to God. What are you doing? Why are you sending me in this? I could live a peaceful life. And I'm looking at the whole thing. I know Marco Rubio real good. I can some kind of way have a conversation with Trump. I kind of know how to work him. God put me in this position right now to be running to help these people because if the law allows that they take their status away, the first thing they're going to do is run rampant through Belgrade, Pahokee, through this district because there's so many Haitian Americans, so many Haitians. So this is a very serious election, and they have a real serious choice because this is a life and death choice, which I hate to make it so dry, but it is. Because these things are going to manifest within the next year. And if you got the wrong elected official that's sitting in this federal seat, some little boy that Marco Rubio is not going to respect, some career politician that's going to lay down, for a couple of dollars, and Marco Rubio is not going to respect, and Donald Trump is not going to respect. You have to have somebody go up there and say, look, man, no, we ain't doing this. Now, we need to have a conversation about this. You're not going to come and snatch up all these Haitians and these other people in this district that are here on temporary status. So it's really... it's really serious. This is a very serious election. That's why, and I look back, I say, oh, God, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You put me in the running in this race here to give me this job here so that I can protect some more people and I can serve you in the way that you want to be served in.
Well, Luke, I want to thank you for stepping up and this conversation was amazing, brother, like legendary. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Before I let you go, Common Sense PhD, our moniker is Make It Make Sense, and you've done that today. And the Make It Make Sense question that I have for you to end off this podcast is: you've lived through music, business, and politics. What's something about your life that just doesn't make sense to you right now?
That's a good one there. Hey, when you said your show is about make it make sense and common sense, that's how I built my company. I live off that. And I'm not saying that. So when you were saying that, I was like, wow. And I was like, but I always did business and say common sense. It has to be common sense. It has to make sense. Common sense takes you a long way. And if you don't have common sense, then you lose. At the end of the day, you say, make it make sense. All right. Why are you getting a Cuban rapper? It makes sense. It's common sense because you live in Miami and your company will not be whole. You got all these JT Money, the Two Live Crew, the Poison Clan, this Anquin, all these people here. It makes sense because you live in a Cuban community. Make it make sense. Oh, we're going to get a Cuban rapper. You know, they got Big Point and Fat Joe in New York, Puerto Rican. So we gonna make it make sense. You feel me? And so everything I do is based on common sense, but you make it make sense. I mean, that's just me. You know, it's all about common sense and making it make sense. And so I guess my whole life is around that, built around that. You know, because we don't know. We don't know. It's got to make sense. We
Yeah,
don't know.
no.
We just say, okay, you know, I always want to ride down the highway where there's no traffic. You know, I'm built on riding down. I don't want no traffic. I don't want to do hip hop records like they're doing in New York and LA. I want to do some different hip hop records. We're gonna put some Dolomite in here. We're gonna make it dancing. We're gonna go with my Jamaican roots and go to a Jamaican studio, Circle House, which was in a warehouse in Hollywood, not the beautiful place they have now. And we're gonna get that same bass and put it in the music, and we're gonna get all these speakers make sense. You got to make it make sense. And so again, I mean, life is built off of that. That's a perfect name for a show, perfect motto.
Thank you. Luke, listen, man, you're great. You're amazing. You're a legend. I'm happy to be able to call you my friend, my mentor, and I can't wait to call you Congressman.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on the show. What it is? I thought it was yesterday. That's how bad I am right now. I mean, I'm going. I mean, I don't know what
He's
day
ready
it is.
to
When you're doing
I
these
hit
kind
up
of
Luke.
runs,
He's
you
ready
don't
to
know
jump
what
on the
day
show
it is.
yesterday.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, where we at? You know, I done went and got something to eat and say, okay, now I'm set up and I got to do the show. And it's like, no. Hey, this the second time in 2 weeks that I kind of ran into that situation where it's like, no, you know, hold on. I went and was getting ready to do a show, not a show, but this hosting on this yacht. And I was like, okay, all right, where's the car? I done got fully dressed. Where's the car? Got to get in the car. You know, not looking at my calendar because that's bananas. And it was like, no, it's tomorrow. I'm like, where's your common sense? Where you making it make sense? But yeah, I mean, this congressional run, I mean, my God,
I know
it's
it's
a
a
real
heavy lift,
undertaking. But
man. It's
yeah,
a heavy
man,
lift.
thank you for having me, boss.
No, I love you, brother. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Luke Campbell. All right, you already know, Common Sense PhD with your boy Papa Keith. All right, Luke.